My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I am shooting this video right now. This is going to be spliced together just a little bit, but I'm at the place where a crime has taken place. So I wanted to see for myself what the circumstances were. And this crime, I would say, is probably, and I can't prove this once again, I can't prove this, but I would say that probably Lauren McGaughy, the so-called investigative journalist who supposedly works for the Dallas Morning News, the trans hacktivist, the so-called, the lady who wants to be fair and impartial, who wrote the smear piece against Brad Namdar, who's running for representative in Congressional District 32. I really blame a lot of this on her, and I would suspect, I cannot prove any of this stuff, but I would suspect that this whole stuff is also tied to the Colin Allred campaign. And as I mentioned in my commentary last time, but not necessarily on film, is that according to at least one poll, that in a head-to-head matchup between Colin Allred and Brad Namdar, the man who was smeared by Lauren McGaughy of the Dallas Morning News, that Mr. Namdar was ahead by 6 points. Now, 4 years ago when Colin Allred was running against Pete Sessions, Colin Allred and his campaign, and I'm not saying that it was Colin personally, I just don't know, but I know that his campaign at the very least did a lot of dirty smear tricks. And I know because I actually used the video footage that I took to smear Pete Sessions. So when I talk about what's going on here, I have some firsthand experience regarding what this campaign is capable of. And I just want to show you that right now behind me is a gate that is just that somebody just drove through, and that's where the car was, but I'll get back to you in just a few more moments. Thanks so much. But once again, to continue on with this story, now I'm inside the gated area, and behind me right here is Mr. Namdar's truck. Mr. Namdar's truck is approximately 80 feet away from the nearest camera, and it's amazing because somehow the unit here does not have a clear line of sight to whoever did whatever they did. But just want to show you what happened to his truck. And by the way, this incident took place between like 7 p.m. and on the 13th and 1 a.m. on the 14th. This was the day after Lauren McGaughy released her smear hit piece. So this is why I'm saying this is, to me, this is something that it has the hallmarks of dirty politics. And I believe that Miss Lauren McGaughy's story, that it provoked what took place right here, not just with his wife's car, but also with Brad's car. And first off, take a look at right here. The window is gone. Now, prior to my coming here, there was glass all over the place. That's been cleaned up. And it was very interesting because some stuff was stolen from the car. Now, there's still a lot of stuff in here, but there was a gun that was stolen, GPS device, there were documents that were stolen, there were some items of clothing that were stolen. Now, why are the items of clothing that important? Because here is the way that these other side would work. They would take the clothing and they would give it to another so-called escort. And all of a sudden, the escort would say, well, Brad propositioned me. I'm not the only one. She's not the only one it happened to. It happened to me as well. And he even left his shirt behind. This stuff never happened. But this is the way that people like Lauren McGaughy, like the Colin Allred campaign, like many of the Democrats that are trying to seize power, raw power, this is the way that they work. They don't play fair. They do whatever they can to put in fear and intimidation and to use any type of smear tactics possible. Once again, this is a criminal activity that has taken place right here. They broke the window of his truck and they stole property, including a gun from his truck. Now, Mr. Namdar called the police. And how quickly do you think the police got down here? They've still not been here. He actually had to complete the report over the phone. So here he is, a man who's running for Congress to represent the people of Congressional District 32, a person who by at least one poll is leading Colin Allred by 6 points. The person that Colin Allred is possibly fearing because in a one-on-one he loses to Mr. Namdar. This has all the fingerprints of a Colin Allred smear campaign and dirty tricks. And again, I'm not saying that it's Colin Allred. It could be his staff people. It could be Lauren McGaughy. It was amazing when this happened 4 years ago to Pete Sessions. I was shocked over the lengths that they would go to and the things that they would do. But once again, this isn't an activity this is a criminal activity. And this truck is behind a locked gate. Mr. Namdar's wife's vehicle was behind a locked gate. She had the keys with her. Somehow, her car is now out in an open parking lot. And there was a phone call made to try to get the car taken. And this right here, his window has been broken. And I just want to know, why is there no type of response from the Dallas Police Department over this? Why? He's a politician. He's not a politician yet. He's a public figure running to represent the people of Congressional District 32. This is a stinking smear campaign. It's a hit piece. And just so that you also know, too, that while I've been here, there have been people that have been calling Mr. Namdar just saying, we're praying for you. Just was walking to his vehicle right here, and somebody was on the phone. We stopped because he said, let me pray for you. So I'm hoping that this dirty smear campaign works against them, turns the tide against them. And I'm also hoping that we see just exactly who these so-called nice Democrats are. They are not nice, and they're not even Democrats. At least not the Democrats that I grew up with. These are radical, Leninists, cultural Marxists, whatever you want to call them. They are going and doing anything they can to get raw power. They want to change the way that we interact with each other. They want to change the composition of our country. Colin Allred is an extremely progressive radical. He follows Nancy Pelosi if he doesn't lead her. That's how bad he is. He does not represent the people of Congressional District 32, and I can speak to that personally. When I tried to talk with Colin Allred, he ran from me, and he put people in my way. He would not let me speak with him. And he turned and he said, I don't want to talk to you. That was before he was elected. Imagine what he's like right now. Anyway, once again, this needs to be investigated. This is political intimidation. This is criminal activity. I, in my mind, blame Lauren McGaughy because of this hit piece that she wrote. And I'll get more into that later on too. She's done other things as well. But for right now, I just wanted to bring you down here to say, this is what's going on. This is what I believe the Colin Allred campaign is doing. And this is the way that Lauren McGaughy and the other people that were with her at that debate the other night, they were setting this up. And I would not be surprised if this goes all the way up to somebody in the Dallas News. And I say that because the Dallas News endorsed Mr. Namdar a few days prior to all of this stuff coming out, this fake article coming out. And now they've withdrawn their endorsement. It just seems like they built him up just to tear him down, so that he was the only one that they would support. And now they've taken that support away. So now they're going to support their buddy, Mr. Colin Allred, the radical, progressivist, Democrat, whatever you want to call him. Anyway, that's it for right now. There will be more coming out. I do have other information to come out, but I will be putting it out over the course of perhaps the next few days. There are reasons that I can't put everything out right now, but Lauren McGaughy, as far as she is concerned, she wants to portray herself as being nice and innocent. I think that she is guilty for this. I think that she should be dealt with as an accomplice to a crime, if not the instigator of the crime. And I think that this needs to be followed up to all levels, and that absolute maximum sentences should be given. If we cannot have freedom of political discourse in the United States of America, our country is lost. And that's what these people are trying to do. They are trying to squelch political discourse. They are trying to squelch the voices of people that want freedom. They try to squelch the voices of anybody and ruin and destroy those people who oppose their agenda. And it's not just the voices, it's their personal lives. They would not care if Mr. Namdar got thrown into jail over these false allegations. They would not care if his wife had some type of illness because of what's going on here. They would not care if this somehow led to a divorce or something like that. They do not care about families, the individuals. They do not care about you. They lie to your face. That's who these people are. Lauren McGaughy leading the crowd with the rest of what I think is cooperation with the Colin Allred campaign team. So to continue on, just a few moments ago I was inside an area, which is a gated area, it's a locked and gated area. This is where two cars were. This was both where Mr. Namdar's car was and also his wife's car. Now what happened this evening, and this is Tuesday evening right now, February the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. But what happened this evening when they were out at a campaign stop, there was a call that was made to the police about Mr. Namdar's wife's car being in a tow spot, in a parking lot that would be towed. Well, her car was inside behind the lock gate. So while they were out, somebody stole the car and drove it down here. So the type of intimidation tactics that are taking place right now are beyond belief. This is a hit job, and this is criminal activity. This is something the city of Dallas should be looking into, the Dallas Police Department. They are trying to intimidate him, to get him to leave the race. They are trying to smear him and destroy his life and his wife and his family. This is what these Democrats are doing. Once again, this has all the trappings of a Colin Allred hit job, as well as Lauren, the hacktivist, Lauren McGaughy. She has her role as well. But I've seen these things play out. You think these people play fair? They don't play fair. They are playing to try to scare, to intimidate, to make you withdraw. They will do anything to retain power. Not only did these people steal his wife's car and they moved it here when they were out, and Ms. Namdar told me that she had the keys with her the entire time. How they did this, I don't know. But they broke in, they got her car, and they moved it from inside a gated area to right out here, and then they called somebody to try to get the car towed away. So you can see the criminal activity that these people are involved in. And once again, Lauren McGaughy, the fake investigative reporter, in my opinion, the LGBTQ hacktivist reporter, again, in my opinion, the lady who was out here to try to weave a narrative, to try to portray herself as being fair and impartial and not biased and stuff like that. I don't believe it for a moment. I've seen this stuff. I think she's a hack. And by the way, one thing I did not say when I was talking with her at that GOP debate, when I called her out and I said the only thing we wanted to do was to make sure that you would be fair, it was almost like she had a micro expression frozen in place, like, oh crap, I have been discovered, I've been found out. So I saw that. There were other things that I saw down at the event that just did not make sense to me, did not add up, and I'm going to talk about them further, but I want to show the other criminal act that has taken place to try to get Mr. Namdar to resign, to leave this race. The other criminal act, which is trying to instill fear in them and trying to, I would say, rig the election for Colin Allred. This is my opinion. I can't prove it, but this campaign in the past has done very dirty things, and why would they change now? It's gotten him into power. He needs something to keep him into power. He certainly doesn't have a record to vote on. He's gonna just exercise brute, raw power to try to keep his position as a radical, left-wing, progressivist Democrat, if you want to call him Democrat, more like socialist communist. This is Colin Allred and his campaign. Whether Colin Allred's hands are clean, I cannot tell you, but I do know that he's got people that work on his staff, and their hands, it would appear to me, are very much involved with this, and I would not be surprised if somehow they called Lauren McGaughy to come and join them. By the way, as far as I understand it, and somebody may have to fact check me on this, but as far as I understand, Lauren McGaughy lives in Austin. So why would Lauren McGaughy drive all the way from Austin to Dallas to cover this story? This fake story, it would appear, because there's no witnesses, no people that are identified, there's no evidence for any of the stuff that she's alleging. It is a plain smear campaign. So we'll say, just pretend for a moment, just pretend that all of her allegations were true, and that Mr. Namdar had sex with this escort, i.e. a prostitute, and that the prostitute's boyfriend, who was probably, okay with everything, maybe the boyfriend is actually her pimp, I don't know, I really don't know, but if there was no money that transacted, is that prostitution? Because the definition of prostitution is that you pay money for sex. But if no money was given, is that prostitution, or is that sex between two consenting adults? Just a question to ask. First off, it didn't happen to begin with. But if the allegation that Lauren McGaughy is making is true, did prostitution really take place? A solicitation of prostitution? You know what? In this case, you could say, hey, she didn't commit prostitution herself. But she has many times, and she's admitted to that. In fact, in the Dallas Morning News, it talks about her being a prostitute. This is the latest article. She's no longer just an escort, she is a prostitute. And I'm going to call on the Dallas Morning News to actually show some integrity as well. This is a hit job, and I would not be surprised if it goes all the way to the Dallas Morning News. I'd like to see the Dallas Morning News say, well, you know what? We will not stand for this illegal criminal activity, i.e. prostitution. Why are you sympathetic to criminals? Why are you sympathetic to prostitutes? Prostitutes help to destroy families. Prostitutes help to wreck marriage. Why aren't you after them? This is illegal. But of course, the lawless Democratic Party with the Dallas News in their back pocket as their spokesperson, as their rag piece in many instances, so it would appear. I would love to see them exercise some integrity, and perhaps Lauren McGaughy. Lauren knows who this person is. She knows. But they've redacted her name, and they've redacted his name for fear of retaliation. All I would ask is that the police investigate this and say, we want the names. We want the names because whoever this person was, the so-called escort, i.e. the prostitute, she has committed multiple crimes, and she needs to be busted for the criminal activities. So I call upon the Dallas Morning News, I call upon Lauren McGaughy to release these names, and I call upon the police department to investigate not only her criminal activity and possible criminal activity ties to Lauren McGaughy and different other people at the Dallas Morning News, and possibly even into the Colin Allred campaign. Again, I can't prove any of this stuff, but I'll tell you what, I have more basis for my allegations and what I think are true than what they have for theirs. They have no facts. I do have facts. Once again, here is a car that tonight was stolen, taken somehow from behind a locked, gated area and moved to this very public parking spot to try to get it towed. This is fear and intimidation. These thugs need to be treated as such. They should be prosecuted to the maximum extent of the law. It needs to be investigated, it needs to be followed, and it needs to be prosecuted all the way up. And if it goes to the Dallas Morning News, it goes to the Dallas Morning News. If it goes to Colin Allred and his campaign, it goes to Colin Allred and his campaign. Again, they have done this stuff in the past. I've seen it personally. I've witnessed it. So I would not be surprised if they would try it again. And Lauren McGaughy, the LGBTQ hacktivist, investigative reporter, as she calls herself, she also needs to be brought up for charges as well. I believe that her article, her smear article, actually incited that. Moreover, Miss McGaughy, this unbiased, just likable, impartial, fair and objective investigative reporter that she is, she has been emailing many people regarding Mr. Namdar, and I do even have some of those things because people have been sending me this stuff about Lauren McGaughy. Lauren McGaughy, the left-wing radical activist for LGBTQ rights. I will put some of that stuff up here later on as well, but once again, this needs to be investigated. This is a criminal activity that's taking place. It's no longer just politics, it's crime. It is crime, and I'm going to call upon the city of Dallas to investigate this and possibly even offer protection for Mr. Namdar and his wife. This type of criminal activity must cease. We cannot have this intimidation and politics whatsoever.